Hi again. Welcome back to At Home Math. Remember, you need your book, your calculator, piece of paper, and a pencil. You're going to head your paper today with, besides your name and your date over here in this corner, remember AHM for At Home Math, and today we're working on lesson 10.6. You want to open your book to page 533. Today's lesson is on quadrilaterals. A quadrilateral is a closed figure with four sides. So any closed figure, closed meaning, you can draw it without picking up your pencil. Any closed figure with four sides is a quadrilateral. But there are all different kinds of quadrilaterals, and this is sort of a flow chart of how they're classified. You can follow along. The same chart is on page 533. You don't have to write everything down, but you are going to want to remember what differentiates one quadrilateral from another. Okay, so we start with the broad classification quadrilateral, which is just a four-sided closed figure. Here's an example. You can have either one pair of sides parallel or two pairs of sides parallel in a quadrilateral. If exactly one pair is parallel, it's a trapezoid. Remember, this little symbol means parallel. These red arrows pointing in the same direction, the same number of them and pointing in the same direction, mean those two lines are parallel. So that's a trapezoid. If there are both pairs are parallel, both pairs of sides are parallel, then you have a parallelogram. The sides don't have to be equal length. These two have to be equal to each other, and these two have to be equal to each other. So opposite sides are congruent. That's because they're parallel. Both sides are parallel, but they don't have to be the same length. So that's parallelogram. Of course, a trapezoid and a parallelogram are both quadrilaterals. But parallelogram would be a more specific name for a quadrilateral that has two sets of parallel sides. Parallelograms are further divided into three categories: rectangles, squares, and rhombus. A rhombus has four congruent, remember this little symbol means congruent, which means same length, sides, indicated by these hash marks here. A rectangle has four right angles. So the sides aren't congruent. The opposite sides are because it's a parallelogram. But all the angles are right, or 90 degrees. And remember, this little square indicates a right triangle, or a right angle. If both of those conditions are true, if it both has four congruent sides and four right angles, it's a square. So squares have four congruent sides and four right angles. All right, so clearly you could call a square a quadrilateral. You could call it a rectangle because it has four right angles. You could call it a rhombus because it has four congruent sides. But the best description of any quadrilateral is the one that's most specific. Okay? Okay. We're going to talk about the angles of a quadrilateral. Every quadrilateral can be divided into two triangles. So here's a quadrilateral, a four-sided closed figure. If I draw a line down the center there, I separate it into two triangles, A and B. Well, since I know that the sum of all the angles of a triangle is equal to 180, then it must be true that the sum of the angles of a quadrilateral is 2 times 180, or 360. If each of these triangles angles sum to 180, that plus that plus that equals 180, that plus that equals 180, then the angles of the quadrilateral must sum to 360. So we can use that piece of information to find a missing measure when we don't know one of them in a quadrilateral. This is example 3 on page 353. I tried to replicate the picture here. My drawing isn't all that great, but here's a quadrilateral, a four-sided closed figure. This angle measures 73, this one 59, this one 85 degrees, and I don't know what x is. So the problem is find the value of x. I know the angles must sum to 360. So 73 plus 59 plus 85 plus x must equal 360. These three numbers sum to 217, so I have 217 plus x is 360, and then I isolate x by subtracting 217 from both sides, so x is equal to 143 degrees. So you probably guessed it. This is your problem. It is actually the only problem that you have in this lesson to turn in tomorrow in the homework folder. So here's your quadrilateral with measures 48 degrees, 157, 55, and you're looking for the value of x. Good luck. All right, let's check your work. Make sure that you've shown your steps. The angles sum to 360, so 48 plus 157 plus 55 plus x equal 360. 48, 157, and 55 sum to 260. So 260 plus x is equal to 360. I isolate x by subtracting 260 from both sides, so x is equal to 100. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson on quadrilaterals, and we'll work on those in class tomorrow. Have a good night.